Well, here we are, everyone. It's Quarter Twins time. After a sabbatical, a 1 week break, Joshua and I are back. We're back in town, baby. We are doing it big today.
Better than ever.
Better than ever. Today is even specialer because it's our 20th episode. That's right.
Oh.
2 decades of Quarter Twins podcasts.
That might be a bit long. I think you're exaggerating.
Yeah. This is our 20th episode. It's hype. We're hype. I hope you're hype.
Yeah.
So, we're going to be talking about some fun stuff today. I just wanted to say, if you haven't caught up on the past few episodes, go catch up on those, especially the one we released 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago already. Holy moly.
Where we discussed Star Wars Wyvern, a passion project created by the one and only Joshua Raisler. You'll hear some stuff. You'll hear some original music by this guy over here. You'll hear some original written characters.
Might just be the hardest we've worked on an episode in terms of video editing and man hours.
That's true.
Certainly if you count the amount of time I put into writing it.
For sure.
You can quote my mom earlier today saying, it was very detailed. So that was pretty sweet.
Oh my.
Nice things to hear from her. She was the first person I sent that document to, by the way.
Oh, there you go.
Back when it was a Word doc, the ancient days.
The old days.
Yeah, I emailed it to her. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's,
if you can believe it.
I mean, dinosaur times over here. Yeah, check out that episode. It's fun, I promise. It's really cool.
It's awesome.
You know what else is cool? TV is cool. And we're here to talk about TV. We've talked about the Star Wars series coming out soon, Andor coming out next month. I was already hyped for the show because the trailers look phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And then they told us last week maybe that it's going to be 12 episodes.
They came with a banger tweet.
12 whole episodes.
And what is it? September through November?
Yeah.
Now we don't even have to worry about this 3-episode beginning. It's not going to be enough.
Yeah. It all makes sense now because we were like I was under the impression like all the other. Well, is Mandalorian 6 episodes? I think it's
10, isn't it?
10 or so.
But everything
Obi-Wan was 6 episodes. So that's what's made me think Andor
and all
was
the Marvel
be 6
shows
episodes.
Are 6.
And if you've been listening, you know that we hate the 6-episode thing.
Amen. I don't hate
silly.
Kenobi. But I hate
one of us hates
episodes.
Kenobi. It's great. It's Star Wars, but I hate it. So anyway, I'm pumped that it's 12 episodes. I think this is going to be really good. I'm trying to keep my expectations reasonable.
Because at the end of the day, we have to remember that this is a story about a side character from a side extra movie in which the character we're watching died.
But, that is probably a good thing also.
We're so deep off of the main route here that maybe they can get away with just about anything. Yeah. And Star Wars, when creativity reigns, let me tell you, it's pretty good.
I texted Joshua earlier this week. I rewatched The Last Jedi for the first time since The Rise of Skywalker came out. I hadn't brought myself, after The Rise of Skywalker came out, I hadn't been able to watch The Last Jedi because the whole experience was tarnished by how bad that last movie was.
That's too bad.
So, but then I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this again. And it's a masterpiece.
It's so good.
It's like, I forgot how good it was. And I still have all the problems I have with now that the trilogy is wrapped up, there are things that happen in the movie that I'm like, well, that is retconned in the next movie, and it does lessen my experience a little bit. But watching it just on its own is just it's
Ryan Johnson knew what he was doing.
It's fantastic. Right? It's an amazing movie. It's the only Star Wars movie in the main series that doesn't go to a freaking desert planet at all. They don't go to a desert planet at all in that movie. And they go to other planets. And while I don't like all of the stuff on like Canto Bight, for example. He freaking tried to do something unique, and he like tried to take Star Wars in a different direction.
Is there a desert planet in episode 5?
It's great. Maybe not. I don't know.
I guess you could call Hoth a desert.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe I retract my statement.
Well, then there's your other reason, because episode 5 is also really, really good.
It is. So
desert equals good Star Wars.
I wanted to bring that up. I'm in a good Star Wars mood nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
After I was depressed for a little bit. So
wow. Sad boy hours are over.
Sad boy hours are over for Star Wars, unless Andor sucks, and then I might just have to.
Then it's 12 hours or 12 episodes of suck.
Yeah.
Which would be bad.
I guess this would be the time to have a little ad time, I guess. Here we go.
Heyo.
Whoa, okay, we're back, everybody. We're back.
Isn't that what you always do?
Whoa. Yeah, whoa. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's my bit that I do every time. Okay, so we're here to talk about TV shows. We're talking about our top 10
television
favorite TV shows of all time.
Whoa.
Yeah, what else? What do you want to say, Joshua? You said you have things to say.
Yeah, I want to lead off this discussion talking about TV in general. Because I think TV, in some cases, is better than movies. And, I spent my whole work week thinking about this episode of the podcast because there's not a lot to do sometimes when you work a 12-hour shift.
Yeah.
Basically, the main point that drove this thought is that there's a TV show has infinitely more time to develop characters, side characters. You know, you can have multiple character arcs for the same character over the course of time. And I'll talk about that when we get to our list of like shows that I like because the characters have multiple arcs over their lifetime, which I think is valuable. Whoa. Valuable. How do you say that word?
Valuable.
That doesn't sound right. Isn't there an A in there somewhere?
I don't think so.
Valuable.
I mean, yes, in the val part of it.
Valuable.
Valuable.
All right, that's good enough.
Something like that.
But yeah, it's just like I feel like TV has not a bad rap or a stigma, but it feels like it's less than movies, and people see it as less than because it has a smaller budget. And they call it the silver screen, which is like second place, or like the small screen.
Small screen, yeah.
They have their own awards show, right? The Emmys or the Golden Globes is not as hype as the Oscars. In terms of the public eye and all that sort of stuff. And so I think it just gets like a weird, like, inferiority complex. Which is disappointing because I think shows like the ones that we're going to talk about today are just as good, if not better, than movies in general. And so I just want to, I don't know if anybody watching this even feels this, but I'm like kind of pro TV over movies in most cases. I think, I don't know, it's just like there's so much more potential in a TV show than in a movie, because a movie, right, you have 1.5 to 3 hours these days, is like the average movie length, I'd say. You have that much time to give your main character an arc, the villain a downfall, a side character time to be annoyed with the friend and then come back at the end or something. There's like 5 or 6 things that can happen in this short amount of time. You don't have time to build up this whole world, right?
Sure.
And as you know, world building is my jam. And TV shows have, they can give a whole episode to the culture of one city that they go to or something, or like spend an entire episode in a flashback of a side character, and it still feels important because side characters become main characters, and I like that a lot, you guys. So that's all I really wanted to say briefly before we move into our rankings themselves, because we got a lot of shows to talk about. I don't expect much overlap, if I'm being honest here.
I think there's one show that I know is on both of our lists.
Yeah, that is true. There's one.
I don't think there's anything else. So
yeah, so it's very exciting. Justice for TV.
Yes.
I love TV.
I'm glad that you have this perspective, because I have the same love for TV that you do, but I think it will become very clear that I do not consume TV in the way that you do. I'm on record as saying many times throughout the podcast that I'm not a comedy movie person, and that's not how I don't enjoy comedy movies as much as I enjoy drama movies. Sure. And the inverse of that, I don't enjoy enjoy is not the right word. I don't watch as many drama heavy TV shows as I watch comedy TV shows. TV is where I like consume my comedy. Okay.
I see.
And so we'll get that will become very clear as we as we go through our lists.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it. I think we're gonna have very different lists, and I'm pretty excited about it. So
very fun, very exciting.
Yes.
Well then,
are we ready to
Jordan, give me your number 10.
My number 10 is a show called Love is Blind, everyone. Has anybody seen Love is Blind? So this is a reality dating TV show on Netflix. So if anything I've said so far, this will make it make sense. And, so Love is Blind.
Cut the podcast. It's over.
Yeah. I can't do this
with you anymore.
I had a really hard time making this list. There are just not a lot of shows that I told Joshua that I was having trouble making my list, and my rubric was kind of like, okay, if I've seen a TV show, and if I didn't have access to this show via streaming, would I feel the obligation and the want to purchase this TV show in its entirety on DVD, right, to have in my home to watch whenever. And so that's kind of how I judged what TV shows to put on this list. And Love is Blind is just a fun time. Okay.
Wow. All right.
There's 2 seasons. And okay, do you know what the show is, Joshua, by chance?
I can imagine.
So yeah,
but I haven't watched it myself.
By the title. And this is like, I really enjoy like reality TV because it's wild, and I just enjoy it as a pastime watching with my wife. And okay, so Love is Blind is a TV show where they get like 15 or 20 people from 20 like men and 20 women, I think is however many there are, maybe less than that, but a number of men and women, and they're separated by gender. And then the first round of the show is like they go into these like rooms where they're separated by a wall, and they like date via only verbal communication. So there's no they're between a wall and they can't see each other.
I see.
And so the whole premise of the show is like, can you fall in love with somebody without seeing them? Love is blind, right?
It's The Voice.
It's The Voice, but dating. And it's just like honestly, the premise by itself is like kind of sweet, because it's like it takes away the like superficial nature of dating, and it's like it takes out things like race and weight and whatever. And so it's like but then the people that they cast in this show like are not the most like moral.
That's where the gold is.
People like they'll have like half where they're like really sweet people who are in it to like find love without superficial stuff, and then the other half are like really just obnoxious people who like take advantage of the whole system. And it's reality TV, so it's a whole thing.
Of course.
So they do the first round where they're dating, and then you can decide if you have a connection with a person, you can propose without seeing them. And then second round of the show is like, then after you propose and they accept, you see them, and then you go spend a week together on the beach or something, get to know each other. Then the third round is meeting the family and planning the wedding. And then at the end of the show, if they make it through all of that, they have a wedding, and this takes place over like 6 weeks, right? So it's a really quick thing.
90-day fiance.
If they have a wedding, they have a wedding at the end, and then that's when it's like the tension of like, are they gonna say yes or no at the altar? And I'm just I'm just captivated by the show. It's lots of good memories. Like it was one of the first. Like, Sam and I got married, and we watched the first season, like, in that first month of marriage, and it was just a lot of fun. Yeah, I don't know. It, like, represents a love that I have for, like, reality TV shows, and I also I think this show is it's fantastic, and it's really dramatic, and I definitely recommend it, guys. It's great.
I'll have to check it out.
You'll have to check it out.
I did not expect that at all.
I know. This is why
I'm very excited to see the rest of your list.
Yeah. There's nothing quite like that on here, but anyway.
Oh, bummer.
There's much more to
I thought it was just going to be Netflix dating shows.
Yeah. Rank those. I also really like cooking shows, but no cooking shows ended up on my list.
The Great British Bake Off.
So
that sort of thing.
There is a show, I talked about the movie Chef a couple weeks ago. And Jon Favreau is the main character in that movie, and he and his friend who's a chef did an actual cooking show on Netflix that's also really good called The Chef Show. Definitely recommend that. This whole episode is recommendations, so
absolutely,
whatever. So anyway, I've talked enough about that. What's your number 10, Joshua?
Yes, so up until yesterday, I felt pretty confident about my whole list. And then when I was trying to explain it to my coworker, I couldn't come up with anything for my number 10. And so I started thinking of every TV show I've ever watched, which was hard, honestly, trying to think of every TV show I've ever watched.
It was really hard.
And I came up with a ton of them. So I'm going to have a bunch of honorable mentions here at the beginning.
Oh, sweet.
Of good shows that didn't quite make the list, either because they didn't meet my qualifiers, which we'll talk about in a minute. So
I'll shoot some in there, too.
Yeah. Honorable mentions include Peaky Blinders, Stranger Things, Sherlock, The Boys. I mean, they were Lost. There were a ton of them.
Sure.
Just a ton of shows. But my final number 10 that ended up being the same one that I already had. Oh, yeah. It didn't change. Is Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Ah, yes. I thought we might see this.
Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is an ABC show by Joss Whedon's even less famous younger brother, Jed.
Yeah.
And they tried to stay in the MCU, and I think at some point they kind of they kind of lost themselves in the sauce, and it goes crazy. You guys, they go crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the only one that I'm gonna say it goes on too long. Well, actually, that's a lie. The next one is also too long, but it's not their fault. Which is something I can explain.
Sure.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. it's just a fun show. I got to watch it with my parents last year when we watched all the Marvel movies together, which was fun. Highly recommend watching all the Marvel movies with your parents. It's just a good time. You get a lot of different perspectives. I like Ant-Man and the Wasp because of my dad.
Right.
You know, that's the whole thing. So it's just a lot of fun. It's about spies from S.H.I.E.L.D. getting into spy things, and whoopsie daisy, Captain America Winter Soldier came out and S.H.I.E.L.D. was no more, So the premise of the entire show was obliterated by the end of season 1, and they had to come up with some new stuff.
Yeah, they came up with some wacky stuff.
Yeah, so if you're into spies turning into whatever else they can think of, there's a lot of good here.
Yeah.
The like main crew on the jet at the beginning of the first season, all those characters are gold throughout the whole show. I really enjoy all of those characters. Fitz and Simmons are my favorite, of course. Coulson, obviously, a very good character as well. Highly recommend. It's just fun Marvel stuff. You know, they pulled from a lot of comics. Because Coulson is like a integral character, out and about and around. Shield related things, and what's her name? Quake, Sky.
Yeah.
Whatever. She has a bunch of names in the show.
Potentially Quake is coming back for the Secret Invasion series, potentially.
She might, yeah.
Or whatever. Potentially.
Yeah. So that would be cool to see her in a feature-length film. Not that movies are better than TV, because, you know, they are equal in my eyes.
They are equal. You can do things with both of them.
Yeah, exactly. Preach. So yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it just, you know, like Lost, when it gets to a certain point and you're like, is this the same show it was at the beginning? It kind of just takes a turn.
Yeah.
And if you like the turn it takes, then it's fun all 7 seasons. If you don't like the turn it takes, then stop watching after like season 5. Halfway through season 5, there's a moment, and that moment happens, and you're like, all right, guys. Like, I can't do this anymore.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to call it quits on this.
Yeah, so that was my number 10.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Arcane was another honorable mention, but we're going to talk about that in the future.
Yes.
So we'll get to that. Jordan?
Number 9 is...
Number 9.
The only animated show on my list. The Spectacular Spider-Man. I believe I've mentioned it before.
Is this the Drake Bell one?
No. This is the animated Spider-Man show that was before Disney bought Marvel.
Okay.
And it's the best Spider-Man show. I mean, I haven't seen the entirety of like what they did after. But it's 26 episodes, and I do own this on DVD, so it
there
is
you go.
On my list for that reason. It's like 26 episodes, and it got canceled because of Disney, and that sucks.
Stupid
because
Disney.
it's a really, really good Spider-Man show. It goes through a lot of the classic storylines. It has a just phenomenal Venom story arc with Eddie Brock and Peter. It is just phenomenal, and a great Green Goblin story arc. It's kind of set up like that, where like the first few episodes are like Vulture, and it kind of sets up like a few episode arc of like Sinister Six, and then like Dr. Octopus and Venom and Lizard and all this stuff. And yeah, it obviously holds a lot of like nostalgia for me too. And everybody go look up the theme song to the Spectacular Spider-Man. It rocks.
A banger.
It's a banger theme song.
Nice.
Yeah, it is a bummer that it got canceled. There's not much to say about that other than it got canceled. I wish it had a longer stint. But I think it's just really like faithful to the Spider-Man character, and is like, it has elements from like the Tobey Maguire movies and the Andrew Garfield movies, and like puts those together really well. And like balances like the high school aspect really well.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's just like, it's a super nostalgic show, and it's Spider-Man, and I love Spider-Man, and it's like, it's the only Spider-Man show that I like watch and enjoy in that, because I think there's something that you can do with Spider-Man and TV that you can't do in movies, and I think this show as a TV show gets closer to the height of the character than any of the movies do, because they have they have 26 episodes they have 5 or 6 episodes to devote to a Venom storyline instead of 2 hours. So like I think that's a really good example of like what you can do with animation. And I think they're making I think there's an animated Spider-Man show coming out for Disney Plus in the next couple of years, which I'm looking forward to as well.
Intriguing.
Hopefully
Intriguing.
I don't know. That's my number 9.
That's cool. I like that.
It's a pretty great show. It's on Netflix now. They just put it on Netflix.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna say. Everybody go watch it on Netflix. It's great.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Spectacular Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Right on. My number 9 is Community.
Oh,
a comedy about what, I don't know, 6, 7 maybe people.
I've only seen one episode, and that was with you like 4 years ago.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
It's a group of unlikely people who go to community college to better themselves, or because they lied about passing the law exam, the bar.
Yes.
In the case of one of the characters. And they're all kind of like people who shouldn't be in community college, is kind of the trope here. Or like people who go to community college shouldn't be there. I don't know. It's a weird, sad school full of weird, sad people. And Dan Harmon is the creator and writer of the show, and he's super hilarious. And it's a bunch of people that get together for a study group for their Spanish class, and they like hate each other. And the whole reason the group exists is so that the main character can get with one of the girls.
Right.
But then they become like a group of friends over time. And have fun escapades and play paintball and buy KFC spaceship trucks. It's a whole fun thing.
Yeah.
There's so many like Easter eggs and well-placed bits across the whole show. They like to do homages to other movies in the form of individual episodes. So there's like a mafia episode where they run the chicken tender stand because that's the only good food at the cafeteria. So they like take over the school with their chicken tenders and stuff like that. So they just do like all sorts of like little things each episode, and they have like a ton of fun ideas that they like to pour into the show.
That's cool.
All the actors are having a ton of fun. That said, in season 5 out of 6, a couple of the main characters leave. Or like at the end of season 4, going into season 5, a couple of the main characters leave. And it kind of feels not as good. And there's also a season, like season 4, Dan Harmon got kicked out of the show for dumb reasons. And then they got kicked off of NBC, and they had to go to Yahoo, and then they brought Dan Harmon back. Yeah, Yahoo. Okay. And so the show kind of just got bounced around, and writers came and left a couple times, and it just became a whole thing. And then a couple of the actors left, but they had this running gag throughout the show called 6 seasons in a movie. They were going to do 6 seasons in a movie. They've done 6 seasons, so we're still waiting on the movie. But it's just, I don't think it's anyone's fault that the show kind of got a little carried away. And like the last couple seasons are still fun, but like characters have left, and it's a different kind of humor. Like they're trying to emulate what the show was, and it kind of becomes like I don't know, like a diluted version of itself.
Yeah.
It's very nebulous. It's a comedy. It's funny, but
yeah, right. I know what you mean. There's a show on my list that is very similar to that.
Yeah.
In that way, where towards the last few seasons, whatever. We'll get.
I think I know. But yeah, so I would say like there's one particular character that when he leaves, I think the show doesn't fully recover. But everything before that is dynamite. It's so funny. It's so much fun and creative, like ways to have goofy situations at a college. Yeah. There's tons of goofy, like recurring characters on the side. I really like it because it's smart humor. Like there will be a character walking in the background, who wears like a weird costume, right? And every time someone in the cast says Beetlejuice, he'll run by in the background. Yeah. Or something, like he just like magically appears every time or something like that. So there's just a lot of little things that they do every time that builds up in the background while they're also telling like good jokes. Yeah. So there's always something to laugh at the whole episode. So that's a lot of fun. They play Dungeons and Dragons a couple times. Nice. And like they really get into it, which is a lot of fun. So yeah, it takes itself very seriously in its lack of seriousness.
Sure.
So in that way, I think it...
Is that on a streaming service?
It was on... I watched it on Hulu originally, and then I rewatched it on Netflix. It might be on Peacock now, if they got it back. I have no idea where it is, if I'm being honest. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is on Disney Plus, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Now. I watched it originally on Netflix. I think the last season came out on Disney Plus, so it's all
Community
over there.
is on Netflix currently.
Still on Netflix? Okay. Yeah. They took a couple episodes out for inappropriate humor.
Sure.
Which is, not something I'm going to talk about. So we can move on to your
about that, I'm sure.
number 8.
My number 8 is Stranger Things.
Oh.
One of your honorable mentions.
Okay.
I love Stranger Things, man. I do own the first season on DVD, I believe.
Right on.
But obviously on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
The first season came out 2016, I believe.
I was gonna say 2016, yeah.
And it's one of those shows where you grow up with the actors that are, portraying the main characters. They start out in 2016 very young, it feels like, and then now we're in season 4 and they're all grown
somehow
up.
The same age as us.
Yeah, right. It's.
I mean, they're a little bit younger, but yeah.
But yeah, even like Sadie Sink is my age, and like she looks like she's 17 in that show.
Yeah.
It's wild. But yeah, similar to Harry Potter, where it's like you grow up with these characters and see them through different stages of life, and in this Stephen King-esque science fiction horror story thing with really good world building and the characters that they bring in that I really enjoy. And I love all 4 seasons. Season 2 is the weakest one. We've talked about that before.
That's why it didn't make my list. I can't really look past that one.
I've never really had a huge problem with that season other than episode 8, where it's Eleven's little solo journey with the X-Men. That episode's terrible. But other than that, like I like the season as a whole. I like Sean Astin's character, Bob, in there. He's a great actor.
That is good. I like that.
But yeah, I think all the seasons like bring something new to the table. I love all the character additions. It's not a perfect show. There are things that I wish were different about the latest season. I think that they keep the main cast like apart for like most of the show, and you just want them to be together. And I think season 4 especially suffers with like a lot of different like people in different places,
like 12 different plots,
and it does come together at the end, but like only kind of. And there's one like in particular the Hopper Joyce plot line in season 4 that I'm just like I just don't. If he would have actually died in season 3, that would have been like an actual emotional moment instead of just being like, I didn't believe for a second that he was actually dead. But
bummer.
It's not perfect, but it is like it's a show that I will continue watching as long as they make seasons. I know they're on there. They're going to make their last season. Right. And I'll rewatch it every year, probably. At least the first season. Like, the first season, I think, is probably the best. Still. And yeah, I rewatch that seasons in particular every year.
I'm very pro season 3.
I do love season 3 a lot. There's lots of good stuff in there. Yeah,
season
I think
3,
it's
the one with the Dutch angle.
Yes,
on the tripod. Yeah, that's pretty good.
That before. That in itself is just fascinating. He kicks the camera.
It's awesome.
It's great. Yeah, lots of great memories of Stranger Things. Nostalgia plays a big part in my picks, I guess, but I don't know.
It plays a part in some of my picks too. It's a powerful
everything
that with those rose tinted glasses,
Yeah, the music and everything, and just like it's the only show on Netflix that still gets like a massive budget, and like they're able to do a lot because it's the most popular thing on Netflix pretty much. So
right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's great. Nobody's surprised that I'm saying it's great because everybody likes it, but
it's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It definitely could have had a spot at number 10 for me.
I feel
as I said, I mentioned it.
Yeah, Marcus from Cosmonaut Variety Hour has said many times that they should have just stopped at season 1, and I can get behind that argument. I like the rest of the seasons, but
yeah, it's kind of weird.
There's an argument to be made.
Yeah, and I thought it should have ended with season 3. I think it was a very nice ending. Hopper dying, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But we can talk more about Stranger Things in October.
Everybody.
Whoa.
All right. What's your number? What are we at? 8?
8. My number 8 is Attack on Titan.
Ah, yes.
Which is an anime. I only have 2 on the list, so don't get your hopes up.
Well, less than I was expecting, to be honest.
Yes, honestly. I thought about putting a couple at my number 10, but I decided against it. Attack on Titan, originally written by Hajime Isayama, is one of the most well thought out plots ever. Movie or TV show.
Look at that.
It's like there's no stone unturned, and none of the turned stones are turned for no reason. Right? Like,
yes,
there's literally, okay, I can name one thing that happens in the show that is in the source material and like well defined in the source material, that isn't in the show itself, and it came up recently, and they kind of had to retcon it a little, but in the source material it's there, so it's fine. Other than that, there's literally nothing that's in the show. Like, everything happens for a reason. Every character you see on screen that's like literally drawn, like sometimes you have like those background characters and they kind of just are like colored blobs, as you get further in the background, less and less effort needs to be made to keep realism. You understand. Everything that is given detail or screen time is important and will matter in the future. And it's just a really, really well done show. It changed studios starting in season 4, so the animation style is a little different. And there's a whole controversy about the CGI and stuff like that, because CGI in anime is like notoriously horrible. Like literally every time. With the exception, I guess, of Star Wars Visions Episode 1.
Oh yeah, dude.
But that uses like the Tarzan technique where they draw over the CGI.
Yeah.
So
I actually watched Star Wars Vision the other day.
I was watching a couple episodes the other day. I thought about putting it on the list myself, but it's not really a show,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like
an
a
anthology.
weird thing. Yeah.
Well, it's not even really. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So I would recommend Attack on Titan. But with the exception, like if you're like, I'll watch an anime. Josh has talked about it so much. What should I watch? Don't start with Attack on Titan.
It should be my first one. I'm gonna watch it today.
Yeah. If you're gonna watch it with me so I can like calm you down.
Yeah.
Because episode 1 has some things, and you're gonna be like, I can't watch this. Not because it's bad, but because it's very sad.
Yeah.
And yeah. So once you get through episode 1, the rest of the show is, more normal.
Yeah.
It's just like there's an event that occurs that's like, oh wow. Like when Loki died in the beginning of Infinity War.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is where we're going.
Sure.
That sort of thing happens in the first episode.
Interesting.
But yeah, I just love it so much because the story is so well thought out. It's like you can tell that he spent years writing from like start to finish, and then from the end to the beginning, and like filling it in back and forth so that there's no like when I read some of the stuff I wrote originally for Wyvern, that's not what I ended up putting in the season.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, whoops, this doesn't make any sense anymore. And I have to go back and change what I originally wrote. So, but there's nothing like that in the show. So I just think it's like a perfect, like, he's done so well making it how he wanted it to be with no loose ends.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
That's a big one. And it's technically not over yet, which was one of the stipulations for all the shows on here, is that they are over. But the manga that it is adapting from is over, and I have read that, so I know how it ends. So it's okay.
Nice.
I make that exception for this one.
There you go. We'll accept it.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Also, one of the reasons why Stranger Things didn't make my list is because season 5, the ending isn't out yet.
That's true.
So there you have it. Because it might totally bomb and ruin the whole thing.
This is true. I guess that's the only show on my list that is still going. So anyway,
Love is Blind is over.
Well, I guess that's a little different because
no, you're right.
Each season is contained. Yeah, my number. Oh, I thought of honorable mention. I almost put Stargate SG-1 at my number 10. Because I freaking love that show.
I thought about Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, I need to watch that. I'm still making my way
over.
through Strange New Worlds, but we do own all 10 or 11 seasons of SG-1 at my parents' house, so it should probably be on my list instead of Love is Blind.
That's definitely a Dan show.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like, it's very, that's another very nostalgic show. Watching it with my dad and everything, and it's a great time. It's a great time. I don't know if it's on any streaming services, but anyway, number 7 we're at here. My number 7 is a show called Psych.
Oh, Psych. I haven't seen Psych.
You haven't seen Psych.
But a lot of people like Psych.
Yeah, I really, really like Psych. I own it on DVD. It is on Peacock currently, I think. Okay. Either that or Amazon Prime. It is... This show kind of represents like the murder mystery detective shows that I enjoy. I grew up watching a lot of those with my parents, like on the NCIS of the world, that sort of thing.
Sure.
But Psych is just like, do you know the premise, Joshua?
He's like a psychic, or he can like read people's minds or something.
He's just like, he's hyper observant. Like he doesn't have any actual psychic powers.
Okay, so like Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, it's like Sherlock, the Benedict Cumberbatch show, where he's just like, he's hyper observant. Like when you walk in a room, he can like observe the dirt that's on your shoe and like have a notion about what you did that day or whatever.
Right.
And so this makes him a really good detective. And his dad was a police officer and detective for many, many years, and they have a whole father-son issue, a lot of father issues themes in the show. And so he doesn't want to be a detective, but he kind of figures out that he can, like, in the first season, he figures out that he can, like, give tips to the police to get, like, reward money. And so he's doing it for, like, the money or whatever.
I see.
And he does that. And then he is like, okay, I'm essentially, like, using this gift I have. How can I make money with it? So he starts this private detective agency called Psych, where he and his friend Gus are, like, freelance detectives for hire. And so, like, the police will occasionally come to him with, like, help us on this case, or, you know, people will hire him out to, like, find who killed their cousin or whatever. It's just, like, a really well written show, and it's a comedy, and so there's a lot of the actors who play Sean and Gus. Sean's the main character. Lots of great, like, just improv comedy bits throughout the show. Lots of, like, standing bits that go throughout the entire show. Like, every time Sean introduces himself and Gus, he introduces himself as, I'm Sean and this is my partner, and he makes up a new title or whatever. Like, this is my partner Jazz Hands or something, and then he'll make up a new one every time he introduces him, and it's a whole thing.
Cute.
Yeah, it's just a show that I watch a lot because it's, like, it's a murder mystery, but it's also hilarious, and it's very, like, my type of humor. Just the kind of, like, I don't know, John Mulaney style of humor, if that means anything. Yeah, I have a great time with it, and it, like, Sean begins to, like, develop a relationship with this female detective who's on the force, and he's obviously, like, lying to everybody about he's claiming that he's a psychic the whole time.
Sure.
And so he's obviously lying to everybody, and so he falls in love with this girl, and she falls in love with him, and they date for, like, a long time in the series, and then, like, eventually, like, tension builds throughout, like, the first 5 or so seasons, where, like, eventually this is going to come crashing down on him. And like, when that moment hits where she finds out that he's essentially a fraud, like, I think they handle it really well, and it's really well done, and, like, they balance drama and comedy and all that stuff really, really well. So a dramedy. Yeah, murder mystery.
Lovely.
Lots of good stuff.
That's definitely a show that I've, like, thought about watching for a long time, and then something else comes along.
Yeah,
and I don't.
You should watch it. It's great.
But I watch a lot of TV, so
yeah.
I'll have to put that on the list for sure. My number 7 is Parks and Rec.
Oh, good. I love that show.
It's Parks and Rec.
But I do like it a lot.
It's a banger. There's, like, a trio in my mind of, like, comedy shows that I like a lot. You have Parks and Rec, Community, and The Office.
Yeah.
Those are, like, the big 3 for me. And The Office did not make my list.
Oh, man.
Because I think it goes on too long, and I can't. Yeah. But we may or may not talk about that later. Yeah, we'll talk about it. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And but Parks and Rec, I think it was the first of those 3 that I watched, so there's that element that keeps it above Community at the very least. But I think it is my kind of humor. I think it really hits me specifically really well. I love all the characters. It's one of those examples of the show has time to really flesh out who a character is, like, beyond just the most, like, crazy eccentric version of themselves. Over time the characters, like, more or less mellow out.
Sure.
Or, like, the way that they express themselves and the way that they exist in a real world kind of, like, begins to feel normal in a way. Like, Tom Haverford is a psychopath.
Yeah.
And he's like a very eccentric like, I don't even know how to explain him. Yeah. He's like the internet if it was a person.
Yeah.
And just like all the capitalistic, like he's the person that anything in capitalism can manipulate. He is that.
Yeah, sure.
The perfect customer. And so like those people don't exist in real life. And eventually he kind of becomes like a businessman and like has ideas and stuff. Mm-hmm. So he starts out as this crazy person and kind of begins to mellow out, I guess. And I think all of the characters, especially Leslie Knope, who at the beginning, the first season or two, which you can skip season 1, by the way, guys. It's like 5 episodes. Like, just skip it. It's fine.
I think that is why I've never watched it all the way through, because I just can't. I think that's what a lot of people say about The Office, is they can't make it through the first season, and I say the same thing. Like, just skip it and come back to it after you finish the show. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I've never made it all the way through, but I do enjoy the character. Like, I like watching episodes here and there. But
sure.
Yeah, continue.
It's just like Leslie is like this very, like, she's loud and abrasive, and she's super angry whenever she doesn't get her way. She's like not a very realistic human. Yeah. And over time, I think she actually becomes one of the best characters in the show. And so I know a lot of people have turned away from the show because she's like super annoying at first. And I say, like, just take your time. If you don't like her, you'll like her by the end. If you like her at the beginning, you'll love her at the end.
Exactly.
So I think every character, even characters that were like background office workers, eventually become characters with things to say, like Jerry and Donna.
Jerry.
They're like, I mean, yeah, and it, wow, it's just so funny too. Like, everything in their show is really funny. It's very goofy to me. Pawnee, Indiana. I don't know if Pawnee is real. I think it might be, but they just have this funny like gag where everyone in Pawnee is like, they're like the 4th most obese city in America, with the first documented case of super diabetes. And
yes,
they have like this fast food chain called Paunch Burger, and all this sort of funny stuff that I really enjoy. And they poke fun at all of those things.
Yeah.
So I just really like it. Aziz Ansari, Chris Pratt, Aubrey Plaza, Amy Poehler, Nick Offerman, Rob Lowe, cast. Adam Scott, Rashida Jones.
Did you say Ben Schwartz? I love Ben Schwartz in that show.
Ben Schwartz shows up, yeah. Jean-Ralphio.
Yes.
It's just, I mean, yeah. All of those people are super famous now, I would say. I mean, obviously, Rob Lowe was like West Wing or whatever. He's plenty famous before. But it's just like, it's a cast of people that could be on SNL if they weren't already, because Amy Poehler was on SNL. But like everybody on that show could be on SNL, and I like SNL, but that's okay. Not a lot of people do anymore.
I've never really got into it, but
so yeah, Parks and Rec. Go watch it. I think it's on Peacock. Right now. You can watch it over there. It's good. And it does also. It's not just like a comedy. It has like a lot of heartfelt moments too. Which I think is nice. Like The Office. The Office does that pretty well, too.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. You ready for my number 6?
I'm so ready.
Are you ready? Are you guys ready for my number 6? My number 6 is a show called The Gilmore Girls. Okay?
No way, dude.
Yes, I've been looking forward to talking about Gilmore Girls with you.
Yo, let's hear it, dude.
Oh my gosh.
Please.
Guys, I'm like the biggest Gilmore Girls fan in the entire world. Not really.
You'll have to talk to my mom and my sister about that.
I know. Our moms love that show. And, I've obviously said nostalgia, right, is a big thing. And grew up, well, I didn't really grow up watching it, but it was probably like late junior high, early high school when I like watched it for the first time, by sitting in the same room as my mom and my sister who were watching it. And, like over time, it just like became a show that I just like just really get into. Like
That's awesome.
I've watched it all the way through multiple times. It's the kind of thing where it's just like when fall hits, like it's Gilmore Girls time, because that's just the vibe of the show for me. It just has this like feel to it that just like it just makes you feel happy, and you just get like really invested in the characters, and it's it's like it's relationship drama, but like I'm into it. I'm here for it. A lot of people don't like it because of the writing and the way that the dialogue is delivered. Like the main characters, Lorelai and Rory, like they just like send off into this like comedic ramble that is obviously written by somebody. Like nobody talks like this.
I see.
But like the way that they do it, and it's not just them, like everybody in the show does this. The humor just really works for me, and the writing works for me, and I like there's something about like the town that they live in, Stars Hollow, that is like it's the super idyllic, like perfect town where there's never crime, there's never like anything that goes like there's drama obviously and that sort of thing. But it's just like this paradise of a town that would never exist, where everybody is just like this like quirky mythological is the word I'm looking for, person that has all these weird character traits. But I can never put my finger on why I like it so much. It's another show where it's like you grow up with Rory starts in high school, and you go through all the way through college, and all the boyfriends and all this stuff go through life. If you're a Dean guy or gal, or Jess or Logan, the whole debate. I love it. So I was watching it yesterday, and because fall's right around the corner, guys, it's Gilmore Girls time. Yeah,
got a heat wave over here. It's not fall.
I think that's kind of why, or that it speaks to how I watch shows. Like I don't sit down and watch, a whole season of like, for example, trying to think of an example. Like, there are shows that I really like The Punisher, for example, is one where I watched it once, but I'm not gonna like put it on for fun while I'm like cooking, right? Because it's The Punisher, and phenomenal show. But like for me, TV shows that I can put on whenever, wherever, and it's a comfort thing. Like it's the escapism where it's like I get home from work, put on a show that I can just like
watch Gilmore Girls.
Yeah, just like just relax and just like let myself enter a weird world,
That's definitely Parks and Rec.
Yeah. And especially with the rest of the shows on my list, say for one, that we will talk about. But yeah, I mean, I'm no shame. I love Gilmore Girls, man. It's a whole thing.
And there's no judgment over here.
Big fan.
That's awesome. So, congratulations to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Is Gilmore Girls on your list?
It's not on my list. But you know what is on my list? Number 6. For All Mankind.
Oh, wow. So low on your list, Joshua.
Oh, well, it was going to be number 8. Last week when we were planning on doing this episode. And, well, the finale of the episode came, or the third season, right? Yeah. And the third season is, well, as far as I can tell, the last episode of the show. It felt very finale-esque.
Yeah.
Of course, I would gorge on any more content that they could make for this show.
Yes.
So for the sake of like, I'd put it at number 1 right now, but that's because recency bias and all that. I'm gonna put it at number 6, and it might even go down from number 6 over time. Like, I've watched Parks and Rec as my number 7. Parks and Rec, I've watched it like 6 times through.
Sure.
I've only seen every episode of For All Mankind once. But okay, so here's the rub, right? For All Mankind, as I've mentioned many times on this,
pretty much
like
every
almost
episode.
every week for the last like month.
Yeah.
I've talked about this show. It's an alternate history where Russia lands on the moon before the US. And it's about how this changes the social structure of the country. Like, we're not the best country anymore. We gotta like, it's like the Cold War never ended.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always trying to beat Russia to the next thing. Like, they put a man on the moon. We gotta put a man on the moon. They put a woman on the moon. We gotta put a woman on the moon. They are thinking about putting a base on the moon. We gotta put a base on the moon. Then Russia's like, we gotta put a base on the moon.
Yeah.
And so we gotta, and they're like always trying to up each other because America cannot lose at anything. So they must win, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And they will sink unfathomable amounts of cash to be the best.
No, we don't do that.
And it's a show about...
This is fictional.
The astronauts and their ambition to be, the first men on Mars or the first men on the moon, and they want to do all these things. And it's a show about the ambition of engineers wanting to build the best rockets and the most efficient rockets, and it's about the ambition of the wives of the astronauts to not be the wives of the astronauts. They want to be the astronauts, or they want to own the business that sends the astronauts to space. And it's and
yeah,
it just, and one of my favorite things about it is every season is like a decade later. The season 1 is like late 60s, and then it's like 70s, 80s, and then we're going into like early mid 90s in season 3. And so the characters get older, and so like you were 25, 30 when you went to the moon, and now you're 60 and you're a has-been, and that sucks. So you want to continue to be a cool astronaut guy. How can you get yourself back out there into the world and do big things? And for all the business workers, that people are falling in love, and there's all that sort of stuff, and people get pregnant, and it's crazy, and who's the father? There's a lot of social issues back then that are bad.
Yes.
And people were discriminated against people a lot more than they do today. They still, of course, do a ton today, which is sad.
Yes.
But it was more blatant back then.
Absolutely.
And so they kind of have like a social reckoning like 3 decades earlier than we did, which is kind of cool in a way. It's like, oh, Russia landed on the moon first, and this like communist people were better than us. How can we let that happen? We need to be better than them. And it kind of like forces them to be more like socialist, conscious, aware. Yeah. And it's like, oh, that's kind of nice,
Yeah. Imagine.
Imagine. Yeah. This is what it could have been, you guys. But there's also like a lot of people who don't believe in NASA's mission, and they start rioting and protesting, and the government is doing this and that and all this sort of stuff. So there's a lot of politics in the show, of like NASA becomes self-funding because they find a resource on the moon that you can mine and like create sustainable clean energy. Which, side note, as a science aficionado,
yes.
There is a substance on the moon called helium-3. It's a real thing.
Unobtainium.
Basically. It's like you can use this helium ion thing that's like been infused with radiation or something and
Space
like
dust.
do nuclear fission instead of fusion, which is what the sun does. And fission generates more energy and less waste. We just can't get the moon because it's way out there. But it's like a real thing that we could use to fuel all of Earth for like a really long time without generating a lot of waste, which is pretty cool.
We don't need the moon. We can just go grab it.
Yeah, like Gru.
Yeah, steal the moon.
So just a little side note that they like use actual science in the show too.
That's cool.
And it's shot really well. All of the actors are doing an amazing job. I cried one time. There were many weeks, especially in season 3, when I'm sitting in this bed right here watching it on my phone because for whatever reason Apple TV looks terrible on my 1440p monitor, but looks amazing on my little iPhone.
That's weird.
And I literally like I'm sitting up. I'm like, ah, what the? Like screaming in my bed at the craziness that this show is going on. So it's been an honor to watch it as it's been released. I cannot talk about it enough. Sadly, it's over, so maybe I won't talk about it anymore.
Well, I'll get around to watching it, and we'll have to talk about it. I watched the first episode, and I was like, oh, all right. So I just need to keep going, because I believe you that it's great. But
yeah, it is really good. It's the 6th best TV show of all time.
I believe it.
All right. I'm good. I'm
number 6. We're in the top 5 now. This is the beginning of my sitcom series here.
Sitcom era.
It's my sitcom era. It's the first sitcom on my list, I think, right? Yeah. New Girl is my number 5. I
gotta watch that.
Watched New Girl for the first time not too long ago. It was probably 2 years ago now when I started watching it, maybe even less than that. But it's not super long. I think 4 or 5 seasons maybe. And yeah, I love sitcoms. Talked about comedy. And I think like New Girl is like I haven't seen very many modern sitcoms, but I would venture to say that it's the best modern sitcom. As in like the past. Well, I guess The Office isn't that. The Office and like whatever.
Office is a mockumentary. It's not a sitcom.
That's true. It's like I think it's technically a sitcom, but it's not like. Well, anyway. Yeah. Anyway, we're talking about New Girl. I love the core cast of characters, and the situational comedy that they get themselves into, and it is like they try a little bit too hard sometimes to like have emotional moments and like pull at your heartstrings and that sort of thing, where it becomes like a little bit of like, okay, enough of that. But
all right, guys.
I love just like you get really. I've said this about every show. You get really invested in the characters, even though they're just like, it's a sitcom. Like you talked about Parks and Rec. Like these are not real people, and they don't act like real people a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, there are like characteristics that are very relatable. Like one of the main characters, Nick, is very like, he hates banks and he doesn't have a bank account and he doesn't have a credit score or a cell phone number, and like he's very like anti just like government and whatever. And he just like the comedy that contrasts that with Schmidt, who is like ultra kind of capitalist, like you were talking about with forget the character's name in Parks and Rec, Tom, and is very like buys all the nice clothes and all this stuff. And just like the contrasting characteristics with the core cast of characters is really fun. And I think, with these shows, writing is obviously a big thing, and I think it's written super well, and all the characters are like really, really fun to watch, and it has a lot of fun. Like Megan Fox is in the show for like 6 or 7 episodes, and she's like hilarious in the show.
Nice.
Like fun guest stars like that. Yeah. And it's one of those shows that I can put on whenever, and just like, there are a few episodes that are like genuinely hilarious. So you should give that one a watch sometime, for sure.
New Girl. Is that on Netflix still?
It is on Netflix still.
There you have it.
Yep. What's your number 5?
My number 5 is also on Netflix.
Oh.
It's called Soul Eater.
Eater.
Yes, this is an anime. It's my favorite anime. Oh. So spoiler alert for that, I guess. Because I didn't want to put a different one on top of this one, so I was like, well, this is the top. Soul Eater is about, so like, in this world, Death himself, the Death God, is like this goofy, laughable character, and he's kind of like worshipped as this goofy, nice guy that is like, hey, I'm Death, Yeah. I can't do the impression right now, but
I'm Death.
I'm Death. He's just like, he's very extra, and like just like a weirdo, who's kind of like obsessed with death on the side. Like he's just like this funny leader guy who doesn't do a lot on his own. But everybody is like, I mean, it's just like a normal world. No one's odd, but it's like death is the thing that they kind of like hail as the top dog.
Mm-hmm.
And so they all live in Death City. And people who go to this school, which is the, like, oh gosh, I can't even remember the name of it. It's like Death Weapon Academy or something. And you can either become a weapon or a Meister. And people who become weapons literally can turn into weapons. So there's like the main guy, Soul is his name. He turns into a big scythe. And other people can turn into ninja stars or just a katana sword or something, whatever weapon they are. And then the Meister is the person that wields them, and their souls can like resonate, and so they learn how to resonate their souls together to increase their power. And so they fight people who are they're called are they demons? I think they have a different name for them in the show. It's been a while since I watched this. I should really watch it again. I've been planning it for a long time.
What's your favorite anime of all time?
I know. I know. It's terrible. I just can't remember the name. It's demon in Japanese, but it's not oni, which is the traditional word. It's something else. They are like actual, like what you would actually consider like demons and death to be. Sure. Like they're much more like pentagrams and dark and scary and evil and stuff. So they fight them and like collect their souls and eat them, as you would expect. And when you eat 100 souls, you get to become one of Death's personal weapons to fight against the demons. So that's like the goal of Soul, our main character. He wants to be a Death Scythe. And it's about him and Maka. Wow, this is horrendous for me. It's about Maka and Soul trying to achieve that goal to collect 100 souls. And there's like other characters like Black Star and Tsubasa and Death the Kid, who is Death's son.
Okay.
And he wields twin sisters who turn into pistols.
Oh.
Which is kind of a fun.
Cool.
And so it's just like those three pairs of characters like growing over the course of 50 episodes. And I think Maka has like my favorite character arc ever. She's just like, she's very timid and she kind of like unself-assured, but she's also like the Meister, so she has to be in control and in charge. And so she kind of has to figure out how to be a Meister and how to be confident and brave. And it's beautiful. It's really nice. And the action is really good, and the story overall is really nice. With a lot of these shows that I like a lot is the world building and side characters getting to be just as important as main characters. So it's just a really good time. It's only 50 episodes, which I think it's like average for an anime these days. Well, a lot of shows are just like 12 or 13.
Sure.
But then they're like, oh, we'll do a second season, and then they never do. But Soul Eater is finished too, which is nice. So you can watch it without worrying about it not ending. So yeah, that's a really good show. You guys should watch.
Nice.
I'd say that's like a worth of first anime.
Okay.
And which is like it's like a whole sub discussion topic for people trying to get their friends into anime. It's like, what's a good first one?
Yeah.
I'd say Soul Eater isn't a bad first one.
I mean, I guess I've watched all of Dragon Ball Z in my lifetime.
I haven't even watched Dragon Ball Z.
I guess I have had a first anime. But
I guess Pokemon,
which now you can play as Goku in Fortnite, so that's exciting.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. My whole Twitter timeline is videos of Vegeta swinging as Spider-Man and then killing someone with a lightsaber and then doing the gritty.
It's wild. I'm so glad that I never got into Fortnite.
Dude, it was so good. It was so good.
If I would have gotten into it at the beginning like you did, I guess.
I don't play it now.
Right.
The 13-year-olds are too good. But
yeah,
it was.
It's a whole thing.
It was so good. Back when no one knew how to play.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about Multiversus. I'm like, when people, people are already really good about it, but I'm happy to be in on it at the beginning.
Dude, season 1 started yesterday. We got to get in on it.
Maybe some, today or maybe not.
Maybe not.
Freaking Top Golf. All right, number 4. Right? Yeah.
Tell me.
My number 4 is The Mandalorian.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it's up there. I
did not consider The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it is it's very easy to consume. Like, it's a Star Wars show. I love Star Wars: The Clone Wars, for example, but it's not as easy to just like watch in a sitting. I mean, it's a kids cartoon show, so you can watch a few episodes just once, but like you kind of have to watch 5, 6, 7 seasons in a row to like get the full effect of it. And like, I don't watch it that often, which maybe you'll talk about it. Who's to say?
Who's to say?
And anyway, I just love experiencing Star Wars through the TV medium. And I would love it for more Star Wars shows to be good.
Maybe perhaps Star Wars Wyvern.
Maybe perhaps.
That's a TV show.
But yeah, The Mandalorian specifically, like I really enjoy the way the story is kind of set up. Like it's very Monster of the Week set up, where it's each episode is for the most part self-contained, and The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, Grogu, start and end each episode in relatively the same space. Like especially the first season, each episode begins, they're in the ship, they land on a planet, they do a thing, they get back on the ship, and rinse and repeat next week for a new adventure. The second season is a little bit more connected throughout, but even then, like, it's very contained episode to episode.
Sure.
And I like that for the just for the fact that I can watch, episode 4 of the first season by itself, and like it's its own thing, and I could be like, cool, and I don't have to watch the rest of the season to be like satisfied by the story. Yeah, and obviously we love Star Wars, and
do we?
We do.
I don't have any Star Wars in my background.
That's true.
I only have Marvel and a cow.
You don't have any Star Wars, but you have Thor: Love and Thunder, the worst movie ever made.
Woo! Go Thor!
Oh gosh.
Actually, there's Star Wars over there.
I have a little guy up there. Yeah, I don't know. I want it to keep going. I hope the next season is good. The best episodes of the Book of Boba Fett are the Mandalorian episodes. Those two episodes are phenomenal. In comparison to the rest of that show, which is pretty trash in my opinion.
Pretty great.
It's not good at all.
super good.
Anyway, yeah, The Mandalorian is pretty high on my list. I don't have a ton to say about it. It's just like it's Star Wars and it's TV and it's really fun. And I think the action is really good. It's shot pretty well, acted pretty well.
They used the dome thing.
Yeah, they used the volume very well, very effectively. And I just love it. I love it a lot.
He's into it.
It's not concluded yet, but
true.
As it stands right now, I'm a big fan of that show.
I'm happy for you that I haven't rewatched a single episode of Mandalorian.
Yeah, it really works for me for whatever reason. So,
I mean, I don't hate it. I like it too quite a bit. I'm excited to watch it with my parents one day.
One day.
They haven't even watched Miss Marvel, dude.
Ah, come on, guys.
What a banger TV show that is.
Really
that
good.
Should be on my list.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's not though. It's too short. Are we ready for number 4?
Yeah, that was my number 4. What's your number 4?
My number 4, which I hope dearly is in your list, is Daredevil.
Ah, yes, it is in my list.
It is on your list. Hype. Let's talk about it.
Yes.
Daredevil, which I guess all of a sudden now is not over.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna worry about that.
As it stands, this Daredevil that we are discussing is over. It will not be the same, and it will be worse. I'm just being honest with myself that the season that they're making now will be worse than what we currently have.
Nah, dude, it's gonna be so great.
It will be good, probably, but like it's not gonna be as good as the show as it stands.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. It's my number 2, I should say.
Oh wow! All right,
my number 2 show of all time.
Yeah, so for me, Daredevil, the only reason it's not higher, is because, or like at least number 3. My top 2 are set in stone. There's nothing changing those 2.
Sure.
But it could have been number 3 if not for the second half of season 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think personally is just kind of a low point.
It is, for sure.
I think this show, the heroes are perfect.
Yep.
No flaws in my opinion. Karen, Foggy, and Charlie Cox. What's his Matt?
Matt. Yes.
Matt Murdock. AKA Daredevil.
Yep.
Those 3, perfect. I have 0 notes on those 3.
Yes.
So I think that the show kind of lives or dies by the villain at the time.
Yep.
Wilson Fisk, played by Vincent D'Onofrio, is 10 out of 10. He's perfect.
He is perfect.
I have no notes. Yep. It's literally like no one can play that character better than him.
Oh, yeah. No.
He is absolutely perfect. The writing is so great. The action, there's a lot of long takes. I've kind of suddenly become aware that I like long takes more, like, and so like I'll be watching. I started a show on Apple TV last night called Dr. Brain. It's about a scientist who wants to download the memories of dead people to solve crime.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There's a lot of weird psychedelic stuff going on with like the dreams of inside people, which I'm not a huge fan of, but the rest of it seems pretty interesting. So I'll keep you guys posted on that one. Gosh, what was I talking about?
You were talking about long takes.
Oh yeah, completely unrelated.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shots in that show that I got angry at because they cut too early. A car's driving around this turn, and they cut before it makes it around the corner all the way. And I'm like, why couldn't you just let it drive for 2 more seconds?
Yeah.
You know, it wouldn't kill you. But that's like, it's just such a weird little thing. But I started to notice it.
Often,
yeah. And so Daredevil has at least one like 5-minute long take action scene every season.
It's phenomenal. Yeah.
And it's so
Especially
well
the
done.
First season.
Oh yeah, the first season. Ooh, it's amazing.
You guys gotta watch Daredevil. I'm telling you,
it really is so good.
You gotta watch this show before they put it on Disney Plus or put the new season on Disney Plus.
And so it's as I was saying though, that the villains kind of make or break the show. So season 1 is all Kingpin.
Yep.
And then it goes into the Punisher and in season 2, and then there is like the Hand. Which is I get it confused because in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles they're the Foot.
It is
the Foot Clan. But yeah, they're the Hand, which is also prominent in the freaking horrible show Defenders.
Yeah.
Don't watch any of the other Marvel Netflix shows. I actually kind of liked. Yeah, that's true. Punisher's good, really good, but that's basically Daredevil. So
I've heard Jessica Jones is really good. I literally haven't watched the other 3 Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, or Luke Cage. I watched Defenders because Daredevil's in it.
Right.
And you kind of need to know what happens. In it. You kind of need to know what happens in Defenders to watch season 3 of Daredevil. Is it where he?
Oh, I suppose
he like explodes at the end of Defenders, and so you need to know that.
He explodes.
Yeah.
So there's like it's weird with the Hand. It's kind of like this faceless villain that I'm not a huge fan of. And then season 3 goes back to Kingpin.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh wait, guys, this guy's perfect. Let's go back.
Yes. I think the problem with season 2 is like it gets into like mythical, like magical powers, and Daredevil really like it thrives when it's like he's just a blind dude who's punching people, and Wilson Fisk is just like a really rich guy with lots of connections. Like it's it's extremely grounded in that way. And so when they bring in magic and all this stuff,
guys who can stop their own hearts from beating so they don't hear his heartbeat.
It's like okay. And it just doesn't have a very strong like central villain presence. Like you said, it's the Hand as an organization. But anyway, you keep going.
There is a face, but it's kind of a spoiler, I guess. But,
yeah.
So I think all of the characters are really well written. It feels like it has like drama elements to it too. I know you've talked about this in the past. You like characters, superheroes specifically, that go to Catholic churches and have confessions and talk to priests and stuff.
Yes.
And I think the literal first scene of this show is Matt Murdock giving a confession.
Yes. It's incredible.
So that's pretty hype.
Yeah.
I'll let you talk about it more when you get to it.
My number 2.
So hit up your number 3.
My number 3 is a sitcom called Friends. Everybody's favorite sitcom, Friends.
Like Friends?
Yeah, I mean, everybody likes, well, not everybody. I'm sure there are lots of people who don't like Friends, but it's Friends, guys. Yeah, I'll be there for you. It's definitely like a show that I own on DVD, and I will continue to watch it for all of eternity until I die. Because I feel like it's already stood the test of time. Like I don't remember like what year it ended in, but it is very.
I want to say like 2000, 2001.
Yeah,
maybe?
something like that. It's not like super old, but it is like you watch it and you're like, wow, that was a while ago.
Yeah,
like the things people wear and all that sort of thing. It's very early.
They're kind of in fashion again though.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it is definitely like it's not a perfect show either. Like it's the characters. You said like in Parks and Rec, the characters kind of mellow out, where in like Friends, the characters don't mellow out at all, and they just gradually keep getting more. Well, some of them do, but like Joey, for example, gets like he starts the series like kind of like ignorant and arrogant and like silly, but he's not like stupid, but like towards like at the end of the series he's stupid. Like he's just a dumb person who like doesn't understand life. And so like they kind of take the characters in those types of directions where it's not as, I don't know, it's not as good, but as lots of shows as they go on for too long probably.
Sure.
And the whole, it's Rachel and Ross, and they keep breaking up and getting back together and all that.
It's so good.
It's just great. Truly, like, I mean, some hilarious stuff. I mean, it's obviously very funny. And one of the shows that I watch the most often, if you're in my house, I'm either watching The Office, Friends, or New Girl, while I'm doing stuff around the house or whatever. And Friends is just like, yeah, I don't know what to say about it, because it's
Friends.
It's just Friends, I can't. It sounds what's the word? Not cliche, but it's like I can't imagine my life without it. That sort of thing. Where it's like it's been around for forever.
Our parents watched it. We watched it. Our kids will watch it.
Of course. And I have so many
we'll
memories.
We'll be ashamed of how dark and dirty the humor is.
We didn't have cable, so like we would watch cable when we went on vacation and on the hotel TV, and me and Kelsey would stay up late and watch it on the, hotel TV and that sort of thing. And as kids we'd watch it, so Nick at Night when our parents were asleep because they wouldn't let us watch it otherwise. And stuff like that. So yeah, it's so good. It's Friends, man. It's Friends. I'll be there for you. They'll be there for me. They'll be there for you.
Wow. It's the whole so thing. Beautiful.
Yeah. You can enter this apartment and like you have friends because you're watching them through their lives, and like they're your friends. Whoa. It's this whole thing. So it's my thing about Friends.
It's up to me for number 3.
Yep.
My number 3. This is the one I'm most excited to see a reaction of.
Oh, good.
As it's not like anything else on this list.
Was this a documentary or something?
Is Survivor.
Ah, yes. I think you've talked about it before, but I wouldn't have guessed that. I would never have guessed
Survivor.
That it would be on your
list. You guys, okay. I'm not a huge reality TV fan at all, personally. I think, but this specific show, and the reasons I'm about to say why I like this show are literally reality TV.
Yep.
But like, just understand, it's the specific scenario that I like, not the reality. 20 castaways, 39 days. You make them do challenges. You make them vote each other out. It's the most savage, like, popularity contest ever. And it's like, I don't know, you can literally, like, with people talking to each other and like keeping secrets and lying and and deception and all that stuff, and then you have like the immunity idols and stuff to save yourself from a vote. There's enough there for 1 million years of seasons. Like, you can literally 42.
Oh wow. All right. I think I can say that I've literally never seen an episode of Survivor.
That is a tragedy.
This is good to hear. I'll probably watch an episode.
It's all on Paramount Plus.
Oh.
Okay. And I can tell you that for a fact because last summer I lived in Spokane basically alone because my roommate was working all the time. And when I wasn't working at the baseball stadium, I was recording YouTube videos for my YouTube, youtube.com/Razumafu. That's not an actual link. Just go to Razumafu on YouTube. It's great. And I watched all 40 seasons of Survivor over that summer.
Wow. Goodness.
It was so much fun. There's so much lore and like survival royalty and like background stuff that you like start to understand.
Yeah.
Like the people who go on the show today grew up on Survivor and know everything about Survivor. So they're like, oh yeah, I was back when, Russell was burning people's socks and he's my hero. I want to play just like him. Like there's literal like, there's like a myth about these characters. Yeah. And then you have, Survivor All-Stars. You get all these people who have won Survivor or they are fan favorites. You get them together and then they play each other, right? And there's all these different stipulations and they start to have fun with the tribes and stuff. Nowadays, they have gone a little bit too far with all the extra rules and stuff. Like it used to be there's 20 people, you have an immunity idol, there's one immunity idol at a time. Maybe you play it for the right person, you save them for a day.
Sure.
Nowadays, there's idol nullifier, which I actually think is a good thing. Just those two things would be cool. But there's like, you can steal a vote, you can have an extra vote, you can, instead of voting, you can roll a dice, and if you roll a 6, then you are safe, but you can only do it once per season, and, they have all this extra stuff that you can do. It like feels like it's not in the hands of the alliance structure, which is the actual social experiment that they started with. And I think they feel like they need to one-up themselves every season. And it's just not necessary because people lying to each other and whether or not they know the lie is like enough for me for a million years, as I said. You could write a book on how to play Survivor. And there is one person, his name is Cochran. He wrote his like thesis to Harvard Law on the jury system in Survivor. And of course, ABC or CBS, not ABC, CBS, picked up that story and they were like, this is cool. And they put him on the show and he played. He didn't win. And then he played in the All-Star season because people loved him so much. And he did win the All-Star season. So hype for Cochran. There's so many
remember hearing that name,
players.
but I had no idea what it was meant.
He's awesome. There's there's so many iconic people. Colby, Troyzan, Boston Rob, Coach, like Sandra, Parvati. I could literally go on. There's so many cool people that went and played once or twice and just had like iconic moments. There's a couple seasons in the, late 90s, early 2000s, where people say things that they shouldn't say. But, that's, it was a different time.
It's whatever.
Not really a great excuse, but
it just looked like it started in 2000, so it's like
2000, not late 90s. Yeah. 40 seasons in 20 years.
It's crazy.
And every single one, well, not every single one, but most of the seasons are bangers.
Yeah.
The first couple seasons, they didn't even have immunity idols. It was just people lying to each other.
Is it still going? Are they still making?
Yeah, they're still making seasons. They've been in Fiji for like the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And they've done every season in Fiji, which is kind of lame. Because they used to be like Survivor Cameroon and Survivor India, and they went to cool places and did cool things with the culture and stuff, like Amazing Race kind of does.
Yeah. Shout out to the Amazing Race. That was my growing up, that was our show.
Oh yeah. So it's been fun. Oh, also shout out to Australian Survivor.
Oh.
Okay. On CBS 2, there's a couple seasons of Australian Survivor, which is what Survivor should be. Or what it was,
Okay.
But it's like twice as many people for twice as long, and the challenges are like, rugby, just wrestling and breaking bones, and like very, very like visceral strongman challenges, and like everyone is super jacked, and it's hype.
Yeah.
But it's just voting and idols. There's no like all these extra crazy rules.
Sure.
So it's just like this huge epic version, and it's so much fun.
That's fun.
And everybody has an Australian accent, so it's like extra fun to hear all them talk about voting each other out. So that's a lot of fun. I talked about Survivor for 10 minutes. Okay, you go.
All good. We're up to our top two.
Top two.
I want to see if I can guess your top two before we get to it, but I already said my number 2 is Daredevil.
Yep. And I know what your number 1 is.
Yeah, you know.
I know.
Yeah, we talked about Daredevil a little bit already, so I don't know where to start. But yeah, I mean, I think like it's the best like superhero thing ever. I think I'd have to say that it is.
Which is so funny because his name is Daredevil, and he's like a blind guy.
Yeah. There's just like, it's hard to even put it into words because it's not everybody's thing, and it is like, it's very violent and whatever, so it didn't get spread, or it wasn't like a cultural phenomenon, I guess, because it wasn't as accessible as say like a PG-13 Marvel movie. But
shout out Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah, I mean those two things, Daredevil and Thor: Love and Thunder, man. Very, very different things.
Very different.
I love Daredevil because it's like I think it is the most practical superhero thing aside from like the latter half of season 2 where we talked about magic and stuff. Where it's like the one take fight sequence in season 1 where it's just like camera's locked on a hallway and it's just like slowly moving down the hallway while Daredevil just like goes from room to room and fighting people in between the hallway, and it's like, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes, and like he'll punch a guy down to the ground, but like that guy will get back up, and like he'll punch Daredevil to the ground, and like he'll fall over for a little bit, and then he'll get back up, and then just like it feels like it's not Iron Man shooting his hand at somebody once and like the fight's over. Like it's like
real.
It's brawling, I mean, it's obviously it's stunt performing and that sort of thing.
Sure.
But it feels real, and it feels like each punch that Daredevil takes, you're like, oh gosh, jeez, man.
Yeah.
And
the Murdochs were made to take a beating.
Yeah,
it's like part of their whole family or legacy.
Yeah, Matt Murdock's dad was a boxer, and he was in some like gang violence type thing where he owed money to somebody, and they killed him over it or whatever. And Matt Murdock got chemicals in his eyes or whatever, and he was blinded, and so the rest of his senses were heightened, and that's how he's able to like be a superhero. And he's also a lawyer, and so for those who don't know, he's a lawyer during the day and a superhero during the night.
You can see him featured in the greatest Spider-Man film of all time. According to some.
According to some. Not I. I would not be there. Not going to that conference. So yeah, it's the drama of it, where it's this guy who is a lawyer and who is like, just like hard and fast on like sticking to the written law, and this is the way things are, and like, he's not killing anybody because he's obviously against that, but like he has this obvious conflict within him where he's fighting for the law, but there are things that are happening in his city that the law can't touch, like or
not quick enough.
Not quick enough to, yeah. Or it turns a blind eye to. And so he decides to fight crime on his own during the, like, people at nighttime doing bad things and that sort of thing, saving people before they are murdered or whatever. And like you said, like lots of conversations with the man who essentially helped raise him, his priest at his church, who he lived at the orphanage there, and so he has lots of conversations with him about, like, he's also a devoted Catholic, and so wrestling with all these things of I believe in a God who says he's going to protect people, but I'm living in this city where people are, killed, raped, everything every day, and I have to take it upon myself. And if I have to take it upon myself, what does that say about the God that I say that I believe in? It's a whole thing. It's a commentary about religion and faith and the justice system and everything.
And he gets really into it with the Punisher, who is a guy that kills people.
Yes, yeah. And yeah, the first few episodes of season 2 are, probably some of my favorite of the show. People talk about that scene of Daredevil and the Punisher on the rooftop where they have a really long conversation about Punishers.
It's like more than one episode.
Yeah,
of just those two guys sitting up there.
He's chained on a roof, and the Punisher is like, I don't know why you're trying to stop me. Like, I'm doing the same thing you're doing, but I'm doing it more effectively because I'm killing the criminals so that they can't get out of prison and do criminal stuff again. And that is a good commentary about, like, you're taking the law into your own hands. What does that mean? All this stuff. And the supporting cast, Karen and Foggy. Foggy's his law firm partner, and Karen is essentially their, like, assistant during the first season. And yeah, I don't want to spoil the entire series for everybody, but
sure.
they both get some really fun stuff to do. And yeah, you talked about Kingpin. Wilson Fisk is one of the best villains ever put to screen, I'd say, in that show. And then they put him in Hawkeye, and it's a travesty. He's terrible in that show.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
that's
it's pretty bad. That part is anyway. But season 3 is just like, it's a masterpiece. It's just like,
it's so good, you guys.
It is so good, and I don't want to spoil any of it for you. Just know that it is a masterpiece, and you should watch it. So,
dude, Poindexter,
it ends
pretty good.
It ends beautifully, and I don't think they should make another season. I'll gladly watch another season. They are making it, and I will watch it.
And it's 18 episodes.
Yep.
So it's not going to be the 6 episode. I guess with Andor and Daredevil now, Reborn, as they're calling it.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll move away from the 6 episode structure. I think She-Hulk is probably still 6 episodes.
I wasn't going to watch She-Hulk, but Daredevil's in it, so.
There you go.
Here we go.
You gotta watch it now.
I gotta go watch it.
Okay, you want to guess my top 2? We'll see how good you are.
I
feel like you probably have a good idea.
I feel like Lost is there somewhere, either 1 or 2. Is it your number 2? Is Lost your number 2?
No.
You can just say no. Okay.
Lost did not make the list.
Oh, really? Okay. I thought.
Yeah,
I thought
it was an honorable mention earlier.
Oh, okay.
But yes, very, very good until like season 5 or 6 when they go insane.
Man, what else would be on your list?
When they go crazy.
You already used your anime picks. Is it Clone Wars? Is Clone Wars on your list?
Star Wars: The Clone Wars is number 2.
Yeah, nice. Very good. Very good. You
Star
can
Wars: The Clone Wars.
Defend the Clone Wars after I kind of talked about it.
Well, you only said that you don't feel that it's like accessible because it's very long.
Yeah.
I think I would say that you're looking at the seasons incorrectly.
Probably.
There are shorter arcs within each season,
yes.
3 or 4 episodes usually that you can do. So like off the top of my head, the best 4 episodes of the whole show, sans season 7, the Umbara arc, where they go to a dark planet that doesn't have, and they have like a Jedi that comes and takes over the 501st for Anakin. He's sent away, and his name is something, and he is a big guy like what's his name? Jet, the big
Dexter
the guy.
Jetser.
Dexter, yeah. He's the same alien as that guy. He uses 2 huge double-bladed lightsabers. He's awesome. I can't think of his name. Krell? Pong Krell. That's his name.
Pong Krell.
And it's all about the clones and like all these guys who are bred and born for war. And how they're literally the same person a million times over. And it's like about them talking to each other and trying to figure out how they're different and all this stuff. It takes place over 4 episodes, and it's beautiful. It really is. And I'll say this
that again.
It's it's so good. And then it goes immediately preceding it is the Water War, which is a 4-episode arc, all underwater, talking about the politics between the Mung Calamari and the Quarren, who both live on Mung Cala. So Admiral Akbar is there, and it's like about the water creatures and the politics. And there's this shark guy from the Separatists, and it's all fun. It's so super good. So there's a ton of like episodic kind of things that they start to do. You can find an official chronological order on StarWars.com for the episode viewing, because it did start as an anthological series.
Yeah.
And anthological, is that a word? We're just gonna say it is.
Yeah.
And so the characters kind of bounce around from time to time. I think the first episode chronologically is like season 2, episode 16 or something.
Sounds right.
It's called Cat and Mouse. I know that.
Yeah.
I know a lot about the show. So yeah, there's like, of course, there's the plot hole of Ahsoka existing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because in episode 3 of Star Wars itself, Revenge of the Sith, there's this huge problem that Anakin has with the Jedi Council about not being the rank of master, and he wants to be a master.
Yeah.
But then in the Star Wars The Clone Wars movie and the 7-season TV show, he is a master.
Yeah.
And he trains Ahsoka. So it's kind of this weird little thing that they didn't canon, really think
but
about.
It's like
yeah. So that's one little thing. But Ahsoka, Ashley Eckstein's character, is phenomenal. I think she's really good. I think she grounds Anakin. Side note, actually, main point, Anakin Skywalker is the best character in this show by a million miles.
Yeah.
And it's the best Anakin has ever been. No one will ever top this Anakin. Shout out Matt Lantner. He plays a random rebellion pilot in season 1 of Mandalorian.
Oh yeah. I mean, if for nothing else, the Clone Wars existing gave us a really, really good version of Anakin. If that's the only thing, that's worth it, because he's so good in that show.
when Obi-Wan talks about Anakin in episode 4, and he's like reminiscing about him being a good pilot and a good friend, I think of Clone Wars, not Attack of the Clones.
Because you don't see any of that in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, exactly. They talk about all these fun times, and we don't get to see any of them. Well, if you wanted to, there's 7 seasons of a TV show of Anakin and Obi-Wan being absolute bros.
Yeah.
It's so
and you get, like,
so
a
good.
lot of good Obi-Wan stuff too. Like, he has a whole romance subplot, and it's great. It's great stuff.
He literally would have left the Jedi Order if this girl said, "I love you."
Yep.
Like, he was ready
Beautiful.
to dip.
Yeah.
So you think that he might understand when Anakin reveals Padme, but he never does. Also, he totally knows about Padme in the show. He's like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, we
and
all
he admits
know
as
Anakin.
much in episode 3.
Yeah.
But it's just like, oh. And Ahsoka also knows. She talks to Obi-Wan about it. And the clones are super good. They don't get like anything in the movies. Yeah. Which is funny because the second one is called Attack of the Clones.
They don't even attack in that movie. Well, they do at the very end.
I mean, they do. But yeah, at the very end. But there's like, there's episodes where it's just clones training and like learning how to be clones. And then there's this like one clone who had a crack in the cell he was born in, so he's like morphed and like looks old, and they like are mean to him. And so these guys are like the losers, and so they like befriend him and stuff. And then a couple seasons later, he shows back up, and the clones that were training are older, but some of them died, and it's sad. And it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much.
Yeah.
And all this little episodic stuff, and we get a lot of Yoda, we get a lot of Windu. Count Dooku is also a baller in this show. Asajj Ventress is really good. We get a lot of Grievous, but also Anakin and Grievous never meet because they met for the first time at the beginning of episode 3. So you have to write Anakin out of any Grievous-related story, which is kind of a funny little thing.
It's good that they cared about that.
They did pay attention enough to that, but not that he was never a master. Right. So that's kind of funny.
It's funny.
There's a lot of politics with Palpatine, and they get close to revealing that he's a Sith Lord a couple times, and then he weasels his way out of there. Darth Maul comes back to life and shows up. Obi-Wan turns his face into the body of a bounty hunter that he killed,
That's a great arc.
fakes his own death, then hides in this group of bounty hunters and goes through a bunch of challenges in order to prevent the assassination of this Chancellor.
It is awesome.
Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka go to a planet that is the Force, and they meet 3 Force gods, and they literally tell Obi-Wan and Anakin that Anakin will turn to the dark side, and they're like, huh?
Nah.
And Qui-Gon Jinn shows up, and I'm pretty sure it's Liam Neeson. He also voices an episode where Yoda learns how to be a Force ghost, and we get to see all these like Force beings. It's amazing.
It is great.
It's so good, you guys. Go watch it. They have a lot of Mandalorian stuff too, with bounty hunters, and Boba Fett comes back and wants to kill Mace Windu. Yeah.
Or maybe she was in Rebels.
So good.
Is she in both?
She was in both.
She's in both.
Yeah. She's in both. She looks weird in Rebels.
I
do not include Rebels in my Star Wars Clone Wars, by the way.
Yeah. I haven't seen any of Rebels, so for me, like, I'm weird with animation. Like, I don't like the animation style of the Clone Wars, so I don't watch it very often. Like, I love it as a show, but season 7 looks good. But everything else, like, I just don't love the way it looks, and so that keeps me from watching it more. And that's dumb, but that's just how it is. I wish I watched it more.
I do understand that,
especially the early
looks
seasons.
Pretty bad.
Yeah, and the movie looks really bad.
I think even by season 3, though, it looks pretty good in my opinion.
Yeah,
but
I just don't know. Anyway.
I understand.
It is a really fun show.
Everyone is very chiseled.
Yeah,
which I get. So there's a weird like sharpness to everyone's face. Everyone has a perfect jawline.
Everybody kind of looks like they're made out of clay, and it's just like it's not my thing. But
I get that.
I mean, I'm so glad that it exists, because I think without it, like, Star Wars may have died off a bit more than it has already. Like,
it's the bridge.
It definitely
between
is.
The original 6 movies and Disney buying it.
Yeah, that's true, because they had to stop the show when Disney bought it, I guess. Maybe because it was on Cartoon Network.
They killed it, and then they hyped it up with the Rebirth. They spent 4 episodes talking about random people.
Yeah, gosh, setting up a different show. Anyway, I mean, we love it. It's great. Glad it's your
really
number
is
2.
good. And there's like season 6 is like a Netflix exclusive. Because it didn't air on Cartoon Network. So like the first 5 seasons is all Cartoon Network, and then season 6 is Netflix, and then season 7 is Disney Plus.
Yeah. I mean, the last 4 episodes of season 7 are phenomenal.
Oh wow,
great.
Yeah,
great stuff.
Super good. So, absolutely, if you even care about Star Wars and you haven't seen Clone Wars, I would recommend.
Just go Google like what are the best like episode arcs. Like watch you don't 4 have to episodes watch the of the Umbara arc or the that bounty hunter arc that Obi-Wan did or whatever. Or when they go to the Force planet, that one's dope. So
Mortis.
Yes.
What's your number 1? I know. I would like to guess, please. It's The Office.
It is The Office, everybody. Everybody who knows me knows that this is my number 1 TV show of all time. The Office is like it's the best show ever made, and it's perfect in every way. And no, I will say up front, like it's not a perfect show, and it definitely everybody knows Michael leaves in season 6 or 5 or 6. I should know. This is my favorite show.
There's 9 seasons of that show, aren't there?
Yeah, he leaves in season 6, I believe, because 7, 8, and 9 are the seasons that people don't love.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not one of those people, really. Like they're the weakest seasons, but I'm down for it. I do think
Jim and Pam are still there.
Yeah, and I don't love everything they did, and I'm talking about what I don't like first, and then I'll talk about why it's the best show ever made. Once Michael leaves, and I'll recommend now. There's a podcast out on Spotify called The Oral History of The Office, hosted by Brian Baumgartner, who plays Kevin, and he brings on the cast and crew to talk about the making of The Office and deep dive into like everything. It's a phenomenal podcast, and I love it. If you love The Office, go listen to that. And he talks about, in that podcast, he talks about once, Steve Carell leaves the show, it's a beautiful podcast. But Steve Carell left, essentially because he wanted to leave before he got kicked out. He wanted to leave before his character became something that was less than what he started with, if that makes sense.
I see.
And so he leaves, and then the studio felt like they needed to bring on like big celebrity names to fill Michael Scott's place in order to keep people watching. So they brought on, James Spader, Idris Elba, Will Ferrell, to like fill the manager role. And it didn't super work for people. I enjoy some of what they did with Idris Elba. I enjoy some of what they did with James Spader. And I love Will Ferrell's episodes. I think they're hilarious. I'm glad he sticks around for 2 or 3 episodes and then he's gone.
Yeah, it's pretty short.
I think it's hilarious. And then they went with like making Andy manager, and Andy kind of turns into this weird character that's not at all what he was at the beginning. And they spend a lot of time like forcing Jim and Pam to like have a like, will they get a divorce arc, which like is real life, and like this happens to people, but it's also like, I don't know if you had to do that. And they bring in like the boom mic guy is a character, and he like is in love with Pam maybe, and they have this whole, and
that young intern girl from Saber,
or
Jim, and like
it's there's some cringe episodes in those last few seasons, but like I think the core of it carries through, and there's a lot of stuff in those later seasons that I really like. They bring in I don't know the actress's name, but the British lady, I forget her character's name too.
Oh yeah.
She has some funny stuff to do. But so like, and there is the whole like, the first season is very different than the rest of the show. Obviously most people know there was a British show on BBC. The Office was first created by Ricky Gervais. And And so when they brought the show to America, they felt like they had to like replicate that. So the first season of the American Office was very much like pretty much the same. The first episode is pretty much exactly the same as the British one.
Right. They even have like the same first joke with the Jello.
Yeah.
It's like straight up a copy.
And Ricky Gervais, his character was like super, like he was funny, but he is super, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, vulgar and, just really offensive. And so they tried to do that with Michael Scott during the first season, but that sort of comedy didn't quite work for the American market. And they like going into the second season, their philosophy was more like Michael Scott has to be this character that is offensive. He is vulgar at times. He is just like a terrible boss, but there has to be a humanity there where like you feel for the guy. And that's when the show like gets really good, is when you're like, this guy is awful, but like I love him and I want him to be happy. And
what?
Yeah. So yeah, it's just like, it's not perfect, but it is perfect for me, and I have watched it, I mean, so many times all the way through. I watched it for the first time probably early high school. And it's just, it's hard to put it into words, as I've said with a few of these, just like it is a show that has always like been there for me. Like it sounds whatever, but like genuinely it is like an emotional support type thing where I feel so involved in these characters' lives that I can like put myself in that show and like feel like I'm a part of it, even though it's this weird, like crazy office scenarios and like visual comedy and weird stuff happening all the time. But it's just like, it becomes like a safe space type of thing where it's, I can come home and I can just like release by watching The Office or whatever. And yeah, I mean, I think it's hilarious. I mean, it is so funny, and that comes from a lot of, you know, the writers that they have were so good, and the commitment to like the documentary of it all, documentary photography of it all, where it feels very much like an actual documentary, even though these are characters that aren't real people. And all the creative things they had to do to like keep that feel throughout the entire series, where you're never, you never see a character from an angle that would be, you know, impossible for an actual documentary cameraman to get to. Like it's always like from behind a window, or like if characters are having a private conversation, the camera is always like hidden so that the characters won't see them, and all that sort of thing. And it's just hilarious. I mean,
it is pretty funny.
It is my favorite comedy thing ever. So much of how I speak and talk to people and the jokes I make is from The Office and has been influenced by that. Yeah, and it's a show that's just always there, you know. I was so depressed when they took it off Netflix, but I bought it all on DVD, and now it's on Peacock again. And they're releasing extended versions of all the episodes on Peacock, which is super fun. For me, who has watched the show 12 times already,
you need more content.
Get that more content. It's my favorite show of all time. So
wow,
there it is.
That's beautiful.
Now I have.
You have any guess whatsoever? I feel like when I say it, you're gonna be like,
yeah, I'm gonna probably know, but. Dang it! I just don't know.
You have no idea.
I have no idea. What is it? What is it?
My favorite TV show of all time is Adventure Time.
Oh, okay.
So
I can see that.
Adventure Time is like you said about The Office, is like your comfort show.
Mhm.
It formed my sense of humor. It went on for 10 seasons. HBO Max also released some like hour-long special episodes that I haven't gotten through yet. Um it's just, I mean, it's like, I feel like I was the perfect age to watch Adventure Time. I was like, I was a young teenager when it started. Finn is like 13 when the show starts. And it's just about him learning how to be a person. And it's in this wacky, crazy world, right? And there's tons of goofy scenarios and comedy and dumb jokes and fart jokes and all that sort of stuff. But at the heart of the show, it's like Finn learning how to be a person and like how to live as a human.
Yeah.
And he is the only human in the show for most of the show. I don't know. That's not really a spoiler, I guess. But he, he's living in this world of fantastical creatures and magic and swords and adventure and stuff. But all of the lessons he learns are like how to just be a good person.
Yeah.
And I think that it's so applicable to our normal, boring world. Relatively boring.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's well animated, and there's lots of good ideas, and all of the characters grow as the show grows and as the audience grows. And it matures over time as well. And like at the beginning, it's very like just a bunch of little stories that don't really link together.
Yeah.
And eventually, like Clone Wars, it kind of starts to be a linear structure, and like the characters grow over time. Every recurring character is a banger. Magic Man, Ice King, Flame Princess, Princess Bubblegum, Lumpy Space Princess. Jake's dad is Joshua, which is pretty hype for me. Prismo, the Lich, Cosmic Owl, Tiny Manticore. There's a Punch Bowl from the Candy Kingdom that's voiced by Mark Hamill.
Oh yeah.
He also plays the physical embodiment of fear that lives inside the belly button of Finn. He shows up a couple times. It's just like it's very wholesome at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And like you can't really quantify it. It's just a show that it's like 300 episodes or something.
Yeah.
But each episode is 11 minutes, and on Hulu, for whatever reason, they never put ads on it.
Yeah.
I guess because the episodes are too short. And so I could literally just press play and let episode after episode roll.
Yeah.
And just sit there and watch.
That's
them
what I
over
love
and
about
over
it
and
too,
over
is
again.
that they're just, since they are so short, you can just like they just come at you so fast, and they're so just like fun. Each one is so fun and different that it's just like, yeah, you can consume so much of it, it feels like.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they write a lot of original songs for the show, and a lot of those are really good. And like heartfelt. Marceline the Vampire Queen and Ice King have like the most tragic backstory ever. And there's like a ton of lore and world building in this show, which obviously, again, I love world building. So for a show to have so much time spent creating the land of Ooh, and like, here's the literal, there's a 40-minute long video on YouTube by Channel Federator that goes through the full timeline of Adventure Time.
Yeah. That's funny.
And it's like, it spans millions of years and like talks about before time, and before there was nothing, there were monsters. It's like it just goes on forever. there's so many great things. You can't really like just pick out one episode and be like, this is the best one. Although I do have a favorite one. It's an episode called Egress, which means to leave, more or less. And Finn gets trapped in this room with a big red door that says Hall of Egress. And then in the center of the room is an upside down snowman made out of rocks. And he has to leave this room or else he's trapped in the room. You know, he wants to leave. And so the only way to get through the door is to close your eyes. And if you open your eyes after you get out, then you teleport back to the inside and no time has passed. Right? So he's like stuck in this space. And so he has to keep his eyes closed. He can't return back to normal life. And so he eventually just keeps his eyes closed forever. He wraps a ton of bandana blindfolds over his eyes so that no one can open his eyes, because Jake always tries to open his eyes when he comes back home. And that forces him to go back to the Hall of Egress. And he just walks the world alone, blind. And it's like sad. And he like gets really dirty and all of his clothes start ripping and tearing, and he's like, I have to leave everything behind. And it's just, I don't know, it just really speaks to me for some reason. I can't even say a specific lesson from that episode or like any of the other episodes. It's just like, it's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. And it's really funny, and the characters are endearing,
really
and so.
That's awesome.
And it is like, it's a bit of a kid's show at first, but there are some pretty like dark things that happen in the show too. So I just think that it's beautiful, and it's on I think it's all on HBO Max now. It might also be on Hulu still, which I think are also secretly the same streaming service. I'm not exactly sure how it all shakes out nowadays. But yeah, that is that.
That is our top 10 TV shows of all time.
I'm glad we did this. I think we should start to watch more TV shows together so we can talk about them.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, so it's the outro time now.
It is.
Or you have another recommendation
I
there
was
you
just
wanted
gonna
to
say,
give.
you know, we talked trash about DC's League of Super Pets. I wasn't gonna see it, and then I had a day, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go see this movie, because the people I follow on Twitter, my film bro friends, were like, you know what, this movie's actually pretty good, and I was like, nah, no way.
Uh-oh.
So I went to see it, and you know what, guys, it's actually pretty good.
Yikes.
It's not, you know, amazing by any means, but it's not amazing. It is actually like, of the DC movies that have come out, it's like one of the better ones, I'd say, and has a nice, it has a good message for kids, and like animation doesn't have to be for kids, but like there were a lot of kids in my theater, and I think they heard a good message, and I think it was really fun. It was just a fun movie, and I think that The Rock needs to just like calm down and stop being in so many movies, because he's in everything, and he's
him and Kevin Hart
gonna be him and Kevin Hart. I thought I was gonna be annoyed by them, but I wasn't really annoyed by them. I think Kevin Hart is kind of annoying sometimes. When he's in movies, he just
kind of makes the same jokes.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a lot of that same Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart shtick. But you know, it's pretty good. It's not bad at all. So
wow,
it's better than I
will abstain from ever seeing that.
I texted Joshua. I was like, I'm seeing Super Pets, and then after I saw it, I was like, you know, it's better than Thor: Love and Thunder. And I definitely think that is true. It is better than that movie. And I've come to hate Thor: Love and Thunder. It is.
Thor: Love and Thunder is the greatest Marvel movie ever was.
It has moved down substantial numbers in my ranking list, but you know,
it is too bad.
Whatever. It's whatever. Go listen to the oral history of The Office on Spotify. It's really good.
Okay. I'm not gonna say what we're gonna do next week.
Okay.
Because just in case it doesn't happen,
yeah,
there will be a podcast next week, regardless.
Yes.
But we just want to make sure, because I have failed to be pertinent about making sure that this guest can appear on our show.
We shall see.
His name is Idris Elba. No, just kidding.
It's Will Ferrell.
But you are welcome to come on the podcast whenever you want, Idris. Please. That'd be cool. We can talk about your movie, Beast. The trailer had some cool music in that movie.
It did have some cool music, I guess.
You know, it was kind of cool. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. This is a long one. It's like over 2 hours.
Yeah.
We haven't done a 2-hour podcast in a minute.
Whenever we rank something.
I'm late for Top Golf.
Oh boy.
Now.
Just stay home and play Multiverses.
Dude, I want to. Sorry, Mom. You're going to hear this eventually. I didn't want to go to Top Golf. But
it'll be fun. It'll be fun. I love Top
I get
Golf.
it. I get it.
I wish I was going to Top Golf.
It'll be fun when I get there. I just don't want to leave.
Yeah.
You understand.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you guys next week for whatever we do talk about. Yeah, we'll see you then. Check out past episodes. Check out my YouTube channel, Razumafu. Starting some new stuff over there. It's all fun and good and great. And yeah, we'll see you. Goodbye.
Bye.